Today on the Innovators Insider Podcast, we have a really, really special group of guests today that Richard Doyle has worked with. So we'll let Richard introduce those folks in just a second. But we also have a really good model of the week, piece of furniture that our friend Richard Doyle has actually designed for the tiny house. A little bit of a theme going there. We'll also have a tip of the week. We have a couple of tips. I have a tip on the bill of materials, and Richard has a tip as well. And we'll probably talk a little bit about what's coming next. So with that said, Richard, please introduce our special guests.
I'm happy to do it, Michael, and thanks for the introduction there. So before I introduce our guests, I just want to kind of relate a story I had. Luckily, I live here in Las Vegas, and Onshape is sponsoring a robot in BattleBots this season. And they needed somebody to kind of hang out with the team at the World Championships that were being taped here in Las Vegas. And like I say, I was lucky enough to live here. I love BattleBots. I've been a big fan for many years, and it was really exciting to be able to go over there. I got to go into the pits and hang out with the team a little bit. I even got to help with some technical stuff with their Onshape model. But I think it was like a rookie leading the rookie, so it's a good thing we had Greg Brown on the other end of the phone. And I also got to watch a taping of some of the shows, and it was a 4-hour session that was just incredible to watch. I mean, seeing it in person was 100 times better than watching it on TV. And the thing that struck me the most was you don't get a feel for the scale, the size of these machines on TV until you see them up close, and you see these 250, 300-pound machines throwing each other up 8 feet in the air. Just a wonderful day. I had a wonderful time. I want to thank the entire team, and let's bring them in. Let me introduce Chuck, Anouk, and Sabri from Team Ghostraptor. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey there.
So,
How are you?
I'm doing great. And I'm really excited, a little bit nervous about this interview. I've never really interviewed actual celebrities before, so please bear with me here. So,
You still won't, except for Anouk. Anouk's the only celebrity here, honestly.
Yeah, I knew.
All right, Chuck, let me start with you. How did you get into this whole BattleBots originally?
Well, I don't know if most of your listeners are familiar with it, but, BattleBots didn't start as BattleBots. Robot combat really started with something called Robot Wars, which was kind of an underground kind of subculture robot fighting event that happened back in starting maybe 94 or so. And, what really kind of caught my eye is like, okay, well, this showed up on Discovery Channel. And it was one of those shows that was pretty obscure. It wasn't mainstream. And I just, got hooked. And the funny thing is that was a Bay Area event. And, here I am. I'm living in Florida. Grew up in Florida. I went to the University of Florida. And I was about as far away from it as you could get. But I had to be a part of it. So eventually, here I am now in the Bay Area. And, now it's international at this point. But, it started early. I was, early 20s, whatever, and I needed to be a part of it. It was exciting. It was, a challenge. I love these competitions. Whether, it was robot fighting or any other of the other robot events that are out there, I just had to be a part of it. This was one big avenue for me.
Wow, that's an interesting story. I didn't know about the Robot Wars. That's good knowledge to have. So how many years have you been doing this now? The BattleBots?
Too long.
Too long?
Way too long.
That's a good answer. We'll take that answer.
So the first one that I actually took part in was in 2000. But I did attend the 99 event in Vegas, which was prior to them actually doing a live TV filming.
So 20 plus years. That's when people ask me how long my career has been going on, that's what I usually say too. 20 plus years. We'll just leave it at that.
20 plus years.
So your robot this year is Ghostraptor. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Ghostraptor is really kind of an evolution of, some other robots. We've been, even back in the early 2000s, we were building heavyweights, but we were never serious about it because we always focused on the lightweight robots. Ghostraptor is really, a series of robots that started off with another robot that was called Predaraptor. Predaraptor was effectively a robot that had a similar chassis, but then it used jaws instead of the articulating spinning head. When Greg and Trey came to me in 2014 to compete in the first reboot of BattleBots, effectively, I had a robot, and they were like, well, we like that robot Predaraptor, but we want to see something new, and it has to be 250 pounds. So basically, I had to take Ghostraptor or take Predaraptor and turn it into Ghostraptor. And, that in itself was kind of a hack. And, at this point, it's like, okay, well, I had the chassis. I love the chassis. And I just wanted to build this thing that was different on top of it that nobody else had tried, which was an articulated horizontal spinner. And that's basically how Ghostraptor came about.
So I know you can't give away any of the results of the season. And it's been really hard for me not to either. Because I got to see at least a few matches. Did you have a particular strategy for this year going in?
Yeah, well, the key to our strategy is really to be able to adapt. There's kind of like a mix and match of bits and pieces you can take on and off of Ghostraptor. And, that goes for anything from the size of the blade to the scoops you put on the front. We can, take on and off the flamethrower that's on there. And put all sorts of different armor configurations to, accommodate different opponents.
Nice, very nice. Now, So your original robot wasn't actually designed in Onshape, but you have a digital twin now. Is that correct?
Sure.
And as that, it was. I mean, that's we looked at that during the World Championships. And I remember looking at several different configurations. So I assume that you've used that Onshape model during competition to check on some things, change some configurations, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so part of our strategy was to be able to reconfigure the robot. And, one of the challenges in any other system is coming up with multiple configurations that you can quickly mix and match bits. And Onshape has some really nice functionality for coming up with these different configurations and managing these configurations and kind of doing what-if studies at a very high level. You're not just turning on and off features, you're basically reconfiguring your entire assembly, and you can tabulate that and make that very easy to kind of like format and understand.
Great. Well, it sounds like you enjoyed this season, and I know we're all looking forward to the telecast. Next question is for Sabri. Now, again, this is just my personal opinion because I didn't get to spend a lot of time with you, but I noticed you're the quietest member of the team. What's your story? How'd you get involved in this?
What's my story? Well, I'm the quietest member. It's a great description.
I disagree. Strongly disagree.
So I've worked with Chuck I initially approached him, I can't remember how many years ago, 7 years ago, maybe longer.
No, it was 2009, I think.
Oh, 2009, that long.
Yeah.
Wow. Damn. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to cross. So I had, during the Obama, he had this clean energy initiative, throwing money at lots of companies. And I had a bright idea of making a wind turbine that looks like a hummingbird or flies like a hummingbird. So I met with several folks and met Chuck. So I worked with Chuck to build a prototype, which obviously didn't work because my idea wasn't too smart. But we've been friends since. And then Chuck approached me about 2 years ago to be part of his team, more to be a social media manager. So because he had already built the robot, but he needed someone to help find sponsors like yourself. And like you said, Richard, my first time on set, it was amazing. You don't get the sense of the size of these robots and the weights and the energy in these fights. So that was such an eye-opener for me. And then I thought, okay, for next year, how can I contribute? So my background's in computer vision, machine learning, some robotics. And so prior to this new season, Chuck approached me, I talked to Chuck, like, what can I do machine learning-wise? He had this great idea of having the robot track competition, maybe using computer vision. So I spent some time building a system, if you will, to first of all train on a robot, and then used a board from like a microcontroller that had built-in machine learning. And I actually built it. I trained on some robot I bought from Target, like a remote controlled car. And I was able to train on this brain in about 15 minutes, put the brain on this my test robot, if you will, and it tracked beautifully. It did a great job.
Oh.
So, but the thing is, Chuck being the pragmatist and me being the idealist, Chuck's like, we're not putting that on my robot unless you prove a set of criteria. So, but it's fine. I mean, and then also what I'm also looking at was the spinning of the weapon. Could I actually through pure vision calculate the rotation speed? And so I'm thinking about maybe next season, like using that tech, like to have like a vertical spinner spins at let's say 250 miles an hour. And now I can match that spin now using computer vision and maybe do something with that.
Wow, that sounds pretty awesome. Is that something that you expect some other teams might start looking at, AI, machine learning, things like that, or is this?
Well, you think that because what's his name? One of the founders of BattleBots. He's been talking about this in his interview videos for at least I know like 3 or 4 years. Like, we got to inject AI because all this tech is out there. My first season, Chomp pretty much had some AI built in their system, but that was the only.
Wow, artificial intelligent robots trying to destroy each other. Sounds kind of scary.
It's now future.
Yep. Thank you, Sabri. So Anouk, you are the newest member of the BattleBots team, and you don't have a BattleBots background necessarily, but you do have a lot of robotics in your background. To start off with, what were your first impressions of this season, your first season with BattleBots?
Yeah, it was a fantastic team. I was new, and also So, he's one of the other team members. I think going into sort of the battle, I thought there would be more of an bro culture, sort of, more competition under the teams and all of that stuff. But when I came there, it was actually very collaborative, and I really like that sort of, that's something that I already know in the maker culture and all of that stuff. Everybody was, of course, you're competing each other, but you're also like just kind of helping, sharing tools. Chuck had a lot of cool tools with him, so we shared a lot of teams. But I think that is so collaborative, and that's in the end what the world of innovation and all that stuff is looking like. It's not about the competition; it's about the collaboration in order to make good stuff happen. So.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was one of the things that Chuck and I had talked about in the pits there. I had all kinds of questions, and that was one of the things. Do the teams share information, share, and turns out that they do. And I'm a big community guy now. I'm the CAD community, but the BattleBots community sounds like something that's pretty awesome too. So your previous work in robotics kind of matches fashion with robotics. So what were the biggest differences working with BattleBots versus what you normally do with your fashion tech?
I think the size of things, the scale of things, the amount of LiPo batteries that goes into the bigger robot setup. I don't use more than 5 volts on the body. For me, it was just really interesting to see like a lot of gear-based sort of mechanisms. So that was very inspiring for me.
So you've been doing robotics for a long, long time. What's your absolute favorite thing about robotics?
I think I've been doing this for also about 20 years. I started in the beginning of 2000. Electronics were big at that time, Electronics got smaller and smaller, cheaper and cheaper. So it's really cool what you can do, and especially working with robotics, you can build the things that you can see in BattleBots, the big robots. What I do is I create robotics on the body, so wearable robotics. You can think of from pick and place machines to the KUKA robot arms. You can just do so many things with robotics. So it's really the versatility of it, I think.
Wonderful. And, since now that we've all been introduced, I see your LinkedIn, I see your LinkedIn posts, I see your tweets, and I get to follow those along now and see some of the incredible things that you've created. I think a lot of our listeners have probably heard of the spider dress. I think that's probably your most famous creation, but some of the other things that you've done are just amazing. And I'm going to encourage our listeners right now to take a look at some of the work that Anouk has done in fashion tech. It's just remarkable. So I'm going to ask each of you. We'll start with Chuck again. What about this season made it so special?
This season for me in particular, I don't know about everybody else, but I had to step back, I think, a little bit and just look at why we're doing BattleBots. Why do I do BattleBots? And it's really, really easy to take these kind of things too seriously. You get there, you're competing, you got a lot of stress, you've been up night after night, you're burned out. And I think what made it really nice is, I think as a team, we just had a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun. I think, more than anything else, this season meant to me, it's like, okay, this is the time to enjoy it, right? And just, no matter what happens, I'm going to have a good time and I'm going to rock it. And that's basically what made it special for me. I think just the mentality switch.
Sabri, same question. What made it special for you this year?
Honestly, I wanted a woman on the team. That was my goal. And my first priority was Anouk. Because I knew she would bring value to the team just because I've known her for some time now. And really, she made for the experience for me at least. She made it so much more, if you will. And
I second that.
Yeah, it was just great working with her. I went to one of her presentations. That was my only interaction with her. This time we got to really know each other. I look forward to working with her on future projects.
That's great. So, Anouk, this being your only season, I assume the whole thing was special, but is there one or two things that stand out?
Yeah, again, I think also hanging as a team, just learning more about different kinds of robotics. I just really enjoyed the show and all the attention they put into the sort of the arena and all the details and the lights, and it looks really cool. So it was really interesting for me also to see how they run production sort of at large, And I thought for me it was pretty well done, sort of.
Well, it sounds like everybody had fun. I don't know how successful the season is. I guess we'll all find out starting January 6th, correct? On the Discovery Channel. That's when the new season of BattleBots will start airing. I think I mentioned it before we started. I got to be in one of those tapings. I had a very unusual mask on and I had a camera in my face at one point. So I hope to get on TV somehow. But I really look forward to watching those matches and to seeing the results for this year. So, Chuck, Sabri, and Anouk, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a great experience overall for me. And like I say, I can't wait to watch the next season. So take care, everybody. And thanks again for being our guests.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Mike.
Bye-bye.
All right, Michael, what should we do next? You want to go into the tip of the week? You got something ready, or?
Yeah, I have a tip ready. Let me share my screen. All right. I think we only have a couple of small tips today to share. So here we go. Screen 2. All right. So here's my famous pulse oximeter that I use quite often for stuff. My health is fine, but I just like using it as a good demo model. But in this case, I'm looking at the tree here. This is an assembly. I don't have any part numbers, and I want to know a part number for what one of these parts are. Well, in an assembly in Onshape, you can just go right to the bill of materials. Of course, you can add the part number column here. And, as you select over here, you're seeing this is the serial cable that I've plugged into this thing. It highlights it over here. But I can see the bill of materials right here. I can add columns. I can add templates. Maybe I want the EBOM, talking more about things that an electronics or electrical engineer would work on. These are templates that you can create. So, this cross highlighting is nice. You can go, You can exclude things from the BOM. You can hide, isolate, all that stuff once you interact with the BOM. So the BOM is just the BOM. It's a great tool to help you kind of interrogate and interact with your 3D design. So just a quick tip, something that a customer actually told me right before this call that I was like, that's so great. I can just get to the part number right from here. So quick, easy, simple, Onshape. How about you?
I love it. The BOM is the BOM.
Yeah.
I love that.
How about you, Richard? Did you have any other tips?
I do. Mine's not quite as extensive as yours because, unfortunately, I'm still quite a beginner at this. But one thing that I really, let me make sure I'm in the, I have to figure out how to do this right. There we go. So let's go to my tip of the week. You see that there, right?
Yes.
So when I was first starting out, of course, sketching is very important in any CAD system. And one of the things that I was looking for was a way to chain elements together. So my old CAD system, I would would highlight an entity and click right click and select chain. And I didn't see that option in Onshape. And I thought, well, okay, I can, that's not a big deal. You can work around that. We get offset by doing this way, right? But it was at a user group meeting that we hosted, one of our online meetings, and Cody Armstrong was doing his tips and tricks, and he showed me something that was just outstanding. So now if I go to the offset command and left click and drag, it will take that chain. And that works with any kind of geometry. It doesn't, as long as it's a connected chain, even weird stuff like this.
That's awesome.
So that's my tip. Left click and drag for offset.
That saves a ton of time.
It sure does.
Yeah. Richard, I think you're on deck again. I think you have the model of the week this week. I think you're trying to claim all of the attention here on today's podcast.
Well, and it looks like I'm doing a pretty good job so far, Michael. Yeah, this will be my second model of the week in a row. It's going to be my last one for a while because this one put a lot of stress on me. Again, I'm just getting to know Onshape and getting really, better at it. And one of the things that I'm getting much better at now is working with Part Studio. So this is my cabinet. Let me give you a little shaded view of it here. Just so you can see, it's a wooden cabinet. This is going to go into my my tiny house at some point. Whoops, let me go to a hidden line visible. And the beauty of Part Studios in Onshape is I was able to do this entire layout exactly the way I wanted it in a Part Studio. So between sketches and different types of features, I was able to lay everything out exactly. And I started with a master sketch so that I could change the overall size quite easily. So you can see that. I'm still working on doing some configurations. So you can see and notice how the inner shelf or the inner swing shelf here and the spice rack, because of the way I built the design intent, as soon as I change the sizes, those sizes change as well, according to the dimensions that I've set up.
It shouldn't be left unsaid that that's so fast, right? Because if you try doing the skeleton model approach in other systems, it's typically involving an assembly at some point, and there's lots of reference management that's
yes.
going on.
And you have to worry about circular references, and you have to rebuild almost after every single time you do something. The Part Studio, what a genius implementation on a CAD system. So once I got the layout exactly the way I wanted it, it was easy to pull everything into an assembly. And now I can just use copy commands. I can just use insert commands. I've done some mates. I don't have to do a whole bunch of mates. You can see here that I've fixed many of the parts. Again, that's something that, you try to fix multiple parts in other CAD systems, and it really likes to barf all over you. But I was able to do that easily here in Onshape. The thing that I really like so much is I've got a folder here for my things that move. So I can actually animate and use those hinges. So we can go a single one here, and I can make sure that my doors open properly. And then let's just go ahead and move those out of the way so you can see that the inner swing doors as well.
I love that technique of putting the things that move there in a folder.
Yeah, that's
very cool way of doing it. And the other tip that I'm going to glom on here is if you share this model with somebody with the big blue share button, they can also animate it, right? I can't think of another viewer, where that would be a thing that you could actually do to have it actually simulate the kinematic motion, of something in a simple viewer package. But because when you share something in Onshape, you're sharing the document and all the stuff in it in, just in a view only fashion, and people can take advantage of that.
Yep. So you can see, in addition to the ease that I was able to create all this with Onshape, I think it's a pretty good design, actually. So I've got my inner shelves, I've got my spice rack, and this thing's just about ready to go into my tiny house. I've got a couple of additions that I'm going to make to it, but I'm going to leave this as the model of the week. We're going to make this a public document and let folks do their own finishing work on this. So that's my model of the week.
Great. I love that. It's a great cabinet, and I think maybe I'll take a copy and start working on my own.
Yeah, and I hope a lot of folks will. And you can still grab a copy of my tiny house as well. We made that a public document, and we've got an ongoing project. It's just a fun project. If you want to design some things for my tiny house, if you want to design something that's useful, something that is interesting, or even something that's a little wacky, we encourage you to do that. About once every month and a half or so, we put a user group meeting together, and we bring in the folks that have designed those things, and everybody gets to show them off, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, the cabinet is there, the tiny house is there, and I hope people will take advantage of that and have some fun with it.
Awesome.
So I took up most of the show today, Michael. I'm very sorry about that. You wanna close us out? You got anything for our audience?
Well, I'm excited. Working a big update for Onshape. Next, I think we'll have some really big what's new updates the next time we have our session. We might try a little experiment, but crossing our fingers, we'll see if we can do it. But as far as a live stream, we want to do a live stream of what's new.
I was waiting for you to say the live stream part. I thought maybe we just tease the audience a little bit, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think we're going to be able to pull that one off.
But I really do, I love meeting you guys here. Anouk, Sabri, Chuck, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to see the results soon, and how the machine work that I've been catching up over the years with. I've been catching up on prior years of Ghostraptor and checking it out. So can't wait to see the differences this year. And Richard, thank you again for just being who you are and making our lives so much more fun.
Always my pleasure. And again, to the Ghostraptor team, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll see you all again next week.
Peace. Thanks.
Bye.